It's 1:48 in the morning on August 13th, 2018. A white pickup truck pulls onto Saratoga Trail in Frederick, Colorado. The neighborhood is dark, the kind of quiet that belongs to late summer. Cicadas, a warm breeze, nothing out of the ordinary. A woman steps out of the truck. Her name is Shanann Watts. She's 34 years old, 15 weeks pregnant, and she's just flown home from a business trip in Arizona. She's tired. She's been gone 5 weeks. She's missed her girls. She wheels her suitcase up the driveway, lets herself into the house, and goes upstairs to bed. She will never leave that house again. By morning, Shanann was dead. Her daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, were dead. The baby she was carrying, the son she'd already named Nico, was gone too. And the man who killed them was standing in front of cameras, begging the public for their safe return. I'm Christina, and this is The Red Thread. Today, we're pulling on the thread of one of the most documented, most disturbing domestic murder cases of the last decade. A case that forces us to ask a question we never want to ask. How well do we really know the people we love? If you enjoy true crime, hit subscribe, sit back, and enjoy. Before we talk about what was done to Shanann Watts, I want you to know who she was. She was born Shanann Rusek in Aberdeen, North Carolina, in January of 1984. By the people who loved her, she was described as magnetic, the kind of person who lit up every room and somehow made everyone in it feel seen. She was ambitious, funny, and fiercely devoted to her family. She met Chris Watts in 2010. He was quiet, where she was outgoing, reserved, where she was warm. They seemed, to everyone around them, to balance each other out. They married in November of 2012 and moved to Frederick, Colorado, a small suburb about 30 miles north of Denver. Bella arrived in December 2013. Celeste, Cece they called her, in July 2015. And if you want to understand who Shanann was, look at the way she talked about those girls. She documented everything on Facebook: birthdays, school mornings, dance recitals, lazy Sundays. Her page was a living portrait of a mother completely in love with her children. She wasn't performing happiness, or at least that's what everyone who knew her says. She was genuinely, deeply happy being a mom. In 2018, she found out she was pregnant again, a boy this time. She announced it with the girls holding little signs. They already had a name picked out: Nico. There were struggles too, and I want to be honest about that, because Shanann deserves a full picture, not a saint, just a person. The family had filed for bankruptcy in 2015. She worked from home selling health supplements through a company called Lavelle, and she put her whole self into it. Chris worked long hours at Anadarko Petroleum. They had a big house, 2 car payments, and the kind of debt that quietly grinds a marriage down. That summer, Shanann took the girls to North Carolina to visit her family. She was gone for about 6 weeks, and when she came back, something between her and Chris had shifted. She confided in friends that her marriage was struggling. She didn't fully understand why. She was trying. She didn't know that while she was away, Chris had started an affair with a coworker named Nicole Kessinger. Shanann arrived home from Arizona at 1:48 a.m. Her friend Nicole Atkinson had dropped her off. They'd been on a work trip together. Shanann was tired, but in good spirits. Sometime in the early morning hours, in the bedroom of their Frederick home, Chris Watts strangled his pregnant wife to death with his bare hands. Then he carried her body downstairs, according to his later confessions that came in pieces over months, each one more devastating than the last. The girls woke up. They saw him. They saw their mother. 4-year-old Bella asked her father what he had done to Mommy. Chris loaded his wife's body into the back of his truck. He drove Bella and Celeste, still alive, to the Anadarko oil field site where he worked, about an hour away. He killed them there. Bella was 4 years old. Celeste was 3. He buried Shanann in a shallow grave near an oil storage tank. Then he forced the bodies of his daughters, both small enough to fit, through 8-inch openings into 2 separate oil tanks. He drove back home, got ready for work, and waited. Later that morning, Shanann missed a doctor's appointment. That alone raised flags. She was meticulous about her prenatal care. Her friend Nicole Atkinson started calling. No answer. She drove to the house. Shanann's car was in the garage. Her shoes were by the door. Her phone, purse, and wedding ring were inside. She didn't answer the door. Atkinson called 911. When police arrived, Chris was there. He let them in. He answered their questions calmly. He told them he hadn't seen Shanann since early morning, that she'd taken the kids and left, that he didn't know where they were. He seemed, investigators later said, strangely detached. When police mentioned the girls, he referenced them in past tense. That afternoon, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation issued an endangered missing alert, and Chris Watts sat down for a television interview with a local news station. He looked at the camera and said, "Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring them back." People watched that interview and felt something was wrong. Not grief, not fear, something else. He was performing, and the performance was off. Investigators felt the same thing. They pulled his phone records. They found Nicole Kessinger. They found the affair. The next morning, August 15th, Chris came in for a polygraph. He failed. Later that same day, in an interrogation room, while his father sat beside him, having flown in from North Carolina that very morning, Chris Watts confessed. But the confession was a lie. He admitted to killing Shanann, but claimed it was because he had caught her strangling Celeste on the baby monitor. He said he acted in a blind rage. Investigators didn't buy it, but they had enough. He was arrested that day and charged with 9 counts, including 3 counts of first-degree murder. Within 24 hours, using his own directions, police located a disturbance in the earth near an oil tank on the Anadarko property. Then a bedsheet, then Shanann's body. It took longer to find Bella and Celeste. The openings on those oil tanks were only 8 inches wide. On November 6, 2018, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to all 9 charges. There would be no trial. Shanann's family had asked prosecutors not to pursue the death penalty. They didn't want another death connected to their daughter's name. He was sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms, plus 48 years for the unlawful termination of Shanann's pregnancy, plus 36 years for tampering with a corpse. he will die in prison. But the full truth didn't come out at sentencing. It came in February 2019 in a 5-hour interview conducted by investigators at the Wisconsin prison where he'd been transferred for his own safety. That is when he finally admitted to killing his daughters. That is when he described in detail the drive to the oil field. The girls were alive in that truck. Their mother's body was in the back. He confessed that he had planned the murders for weeks, that he had been secretly giving Shanann OxyContin, hoping to end her pregnancy, that the unborn baby, Nico, was an obstacle to the life he wanted with Nicole Kessinger. Kessinger, for her part, cooperated fully with police. She had no knowledge of what he had done. She told investigators she thought he was separated. She later said of Chris, "I legitimately think his cheese was sliding off his cracker long before he met me." There's something that haunts me about this case, and it's this: Bella knew. In her final moments, 4-year-old Bella Watts understood enough of what was happening to ask her father if he was going to do to her what he had done to her little sister. And he did. The question that followed this case, the one that people are still asking, is why? Why would a man with no prior criminal history, no documented violence, wake up one morning and murder his entire family? Forensic psychologists have pointed to the concept of family annihilation, a specific type of familicide in which the killer perceives their family not as individuals, but as possessions, things that belong to the life they want to escape. Former FBI profiler Candace DeLong noted that family annihilators rarely survive the act. Most take their own lives afterward. Chris didn't. He wanted a different life. He wanted Nicole Kessinger. He wanted out. And rather than face the difficult, painful, human process of divorce, of telling his children he was leaving, of splitting a household, of public humiliation, he simply erased the problem. That is not a psychological diagnosis. That's what he did. What's perhaps most disturbing is how ordinary he appeared. Shanann's own social media documented him as a devoted father, playing with the girls, laughing, present. Neighbors described him as quiet and polite. There were no signs. And that's the part that's hardest to sit with, because it means there is no reliable way to see it coming. Shanann Watts was buried on September 1st, 2018, in Pinehurst, North Carolina, surrounded by family. Bella and Celeste were buried with her. The baby she'd been carrying, Nico, was buried with her too. Her parents, Frank and Sandra Ruszczyk, have spoken publicly about their daughter and granddaughters many times since. They've pushed back against films and documentaries they felt sensationalized the case. They've asked the public to remember Shanann not as a victim, but as a person, a daughter, a mother, a woman who loved fiercely and was loved in return. Frank Ruszczyk returned to Colorado in 2019 to plead with internet users who were harassing his family online. He stood in front of cameras and said, simply, that his family was still grieving, that they needed to be left alone, that his daughter deserved better than this. He was right. The home at 2825 Saratoga Trail was eventually sold at auction. The family's debts were settled. The world moved on, as it always does. But before we let this one go, I want to sit with Shanann for just a moment longer. Not with the crime, not with Chris, with her. She was someone who posted videos of her daughters dancing in the living room at 7 in the morning because she couldn't help herself. She was someone who, in the last months of her life, was trying to save her marriage, carry a pregnancy, run a business, and be a good mother, all at the same time. She was imperfect and determined and human, and she deserved so much more than what she got. I'm Christina. This has been The Red Thread. If this episode moved you, please share it. Not for the algorithm, but because Shanann's story deserves to be heard, and heard the right way. We'll be back next week. Until then, hit subscribe, stay curious, stay kind, and keep pulling the thread.